Just like Trump, he got his income cut by getting into politics.
All right, mics are going hot here.
All right.
Viewers and listeners, we're going to have some fun today on the Wednesday edition of the I Love CVille show with, as Alex Erpe would say, amigo de la programa. And my Spanish is butchered. Sorry. My mom would be so disappointed. There was that one time where I was completely fluent in Spanish. And then no practice in Spanish. Conan really has impacted my proficiency. Your Spanish is good, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I lived 2.5 years in Mexico after Darden, and I make sure that every Latin I encounter, I only speak to them in Spanish. So it's been good to keep it. It's a lot easier these days than it was 20 years ago when I moved here.
That's true. That's true.
And I got a lot of clients that have come in because we can speak Spanish to them and not have them have to explain how they want their vehicle decaled or anything like that, and kind of losing stuff in translation.
Maybe we'll start with the Repas family.
Sure.
You very kindly connected us via email with them. They were hesitant to come on the show because of the language barrier, but perhaps you could speak on what's going on with Venezuela and what's going on with Repas on the show today. Sure. Like and share the show, viewers and listeners. Bill McChesney is watching the program. We'll talk about a billionaire rescuing the Daily Progress on today's show. I saw that as positive. I mean, it can't be anything but positive.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, let's hope, right? A lot we're going to cover on the broadcast. We'll take your questions. We'll talk business development. We'll talk about the economy in Charlottesville and how things are going. We'll talk UVA. It's Scott Beardsley's second day on the job. Ladies and gentlemen, Judah Wickower is going to join us in the discussion. Of course, we'll welcome your comments on the show. Judah, we are looking good on our RN live on Conan's page where he's got friends and family giving him some love. Let's rock and roll, J-Dubs, when you're ready. Thank you for the retweet, Ginny Who. Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on a Wednesday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville. We have looked forward to this interview for some time. As friend of the program, Conan Owen is in the house. He is as connected with this local economy, this regional economy, as anyone I know. He is literally on the front lines in a face-to-face capacity, handshaking, speaking, strategizing with business owners across Charlottesville City, Albemarle County, and across Central Virginia. Oftentimes, conversation points that we analyze or commentate about on this show are fed to us from this man. And that's a very factual and sincere statement. It's a testament to him just one-on-oneing with probably more business owners than anyone in this community. I'd probably put them in the same category as me. It's hard for me to say that. I sincerely mean that. Comments, we want you, the viewer and listener, to join us in the discussion. Judah Wickower's behind the camera, but he'll be front and center on the show. 15 Facebook pages, all over social media, the water cooler of content and conversation. Judah Wickower, why don't you go to the studio camera first, and then two-shot Conan Owen, and then we'll eventually weave you in with a three-shot. I'll start with an open-ended topic. First, I got to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Nice to see you.
Good seeing you again. Happy New Year.
Same to you. My understanding is your business is crushing it.
January is somebody lit a rocket, and we're way ahead of last January with a lot of direct mail, which is unusual for this time of year, but doing a lot of targeted mailings, one for a school, one for a home contractor, being able to go in and get the demographics and, pinpoint households with kids between the ages of 4 and 9 kind of thing. So a lot of really data-driven direct mail programs right now.
Congratulations on your success.
Thanks.
Sir Speedy, locally owned and operated by this gentleman. He's a Darden graduate. If you have a logo and you need an application for it, he's who you should contact. Our firm utilizes it for our real estate portfolio, our consulting firm, and our many clients. I've seen it firsthand, folks. How about a scatter shooting? I throw this to Jerry Ratcliffe. Anywhere you want to go, any topic you want to pontificate upon, and then I'll adapt to you, and then we'll get to, my friend, the news cycle.
Okay. Well, honestly, I'm really people are saying a lot about, the economy not being great. And I'm just not seeing that. I just had my former landlord came in today, telling me that the 2 spaces that I let go, she had multiple offers to fill them when I moved.
That's a good location.
And every space, they're full everywhere. Commercial space, and people are saying, the prices are surprisingly reasonable compared to other parts of Charlottesville. So, and the number of new businesses popping up, I just look at that, and then the orders that we're getting from all different segments of the economy. Maybe a little less from UVA in the past 6 months with all the uncertainty there, but there's been plenty in the commercial space and the nonprofit space to fill that gap and exceed it, and really moving in, like I said, in a lot of new directions. We're doing a lot more exterior signage for new businesses that are coming in, which I look forward to talking about a little later on. But like I said, the direct mail, we've branched out to do a lot of new services to meet the Charlottesville economy. We just got a small batch label printer, so we can do customized labels for wine. So if you have, if you want your wedding picture on a case of wine for your wedding,
That's
we
cool.
can do that. We just started doing in-house pocket folder brochures. We've got a new conference center opening up on UVA pretty soon. These are very popular items. We can do small batches on those, under 100, and we can do them in a day or two, and for a reasonable price. And we also got in with large format blueprinting, with all the construction going on in Charlottesville, all of the building, all of the changes. Up until now, there's only been one place to get blueprints and drawings made in Charlottesville. So, a monopoly invites competition. So we invested in that direction and are ready to roll.
You mentioned something that immediately jumped out to me. New businesses that are launching and opening their doors. Let's start there.
Sure. Let's take it the way I can keep it in my head geographically. You start up at Hollymead, just opened a new Firehouse Subs last week. The Fox Den Sports Bar is supposed to be opening this weekend. Biggest viewing screen in town, 15 feet by 10 feet. They're already planning World Cup events and getting special use permits to set up tents in the parking lot with TVs. So fans of different countries can watch different games. That's going to be just a huge explosion out there. You've got, just in general, I see a lot of fitness businesses coming in. Planet Fitness just opened up in Rio Hills. There's a new Blue Ridge Barbells opening up over on Rose Hill Drive. And then a client that's a concept I'm really excited about. I think it's going to do really well in Charlottesville. It's opening in Pantops this spring, is a fitness for teenagers. It's for serious high school athletes who are looking to go to the next level. So that's going to be a really interesting draw. But then you've also got, at Stonefield, you've got the men's store. S&H Franklin is opening, supposed to be February 1st, if all goes well. They're going to be a competitor to Quattro Tizzi, have a lot of the same brands that they carry. The Chicken Salad Chick opened up not too long ago, and they're doing very well. Very tasty food. So you're going to be seeing a lot of movement upcoming in Barracks Road. A couple of big announcements there in the next couple of months. Major spaces getting converted and filled.
A lot of the openings you've highlighted are in Albemarle County.
Yes.
Albemarle County versus City of Charlottesville. Economic climate, fragility, and strength. Compare and contrast.
The county is so much better. I mean, you've got 2 major open spaces on the downtown mall. The old Alakazam and 10,000 Villages are sitting there with brown paper in their windows. The Sky Bar, the old Sky Bar, and whatever else it's been called is still boarded up. The beer place across the street still
Draft
hasn't
Tap
opened.
Room.
Draft Tap Room. Bonnie and Reed is still papered over.
Wells Fargo Bank.
Wells Fargo
The
Bank.
bank hall.
The bank side is empty. And even down by the Code building, that fancy new retail space has never been leased. So there's a lot of vacancy. Of course, there is some movement. You've got, Popito's opened over in the old Mono Loco space, and their pizzas are delicious. The nice thing is also here they're doing by the slice. Up at Rio Hills is primarily full pies, but here you can just pop in for lunch and grab a slice. 3 or 4 different varieties. They have Sicilian and the regular oven, and then I don't know what the grandma slice is, but they've got that too. I stopped in and had some last week. Very, very tasty. And then the Great Harvest Baking Company, we're looking forward to their opening on the downtown mall. But generally speaking, it's either in the county or the near city limits. There's a new coffee shop going in across from Barracks Road in Arlington. There's what we know about the ice cream place out at across from Birdwood. I don't know what that development's
You're
called.
talking
Ivy, whatever.
I can't believe I'm
across
drawing a
from
blank on
Selvage
this.
Brewery.
Yeah, I literally just posted this on the
You've got
Instagram
that going
account.
on. But there is some stuff going on downtown. Someone is moving in. I haven't gotten the details yet, but there's someone moving in next to the Starbucks in the old Kung Fu Tea location on
Sugar
West
Bear.
Main Street.
Sugar Bear ice.
Sugar Bear is going
Yeah.
out on Ivy Road, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something else going in next to the old Pizza Hut and in the Kung Fu Tea space there on West Main Street. On the next corner, what used to be, I think it was the Habitat for Humanity offices once upon a time. They're getting the leasing office for that new apartment building down on JPA. I can't remember the name of that one.
The Verve?
Is that the Verve?
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's the Verve or the one on Ivy Road is the Verve. But
The Verve is the one by Scott Stadium.
okay, yeah. So they're getting a leasing office. They're taking the corner space as a leasing office. The upstairs have been renovated for office space. And then there's also an ice cream shop going in next door to, what is it, Wine and Grain, or that little convenience
Yep.
and booze shop. And then you've got Cake Bloom is moving around the corner, so there's going to be a vacancy on West Main Street while they move down next to Camellias and Guajiros.
Little tidbit from our notebook here. There's going to be a coffee shop coming to Ivy Road. I won't break the news on which one. It's not my news to break. It will be the proprietor's news to break. It will be next to the ice cream shop Sugar Bear, right next to Bel Air Market, right next to Salvage Brewery. There is a coffee shop coming right there, front and center, to capture that demand, because really I guess there's a Shenandoah Joe's, but that's further down Ivy Road. We will talk, speaking of Great Harvest, we've talked about this on previous shows. Our clients, Chris and Tracy Crowley, actually both our clients, his clients, and my firm's clients as well, are opening up a Great Harvest Bread Company spoke. Their primary bakery is in, Woodard Plaza.
Yeah, Allied Plaza down.
Allied Plaza. They're opening up a spoke on the downtown mall in the old Wells Fargo ATM space. We helped broker that deal. Comments are coming in for you already. This is from John Blair on LinkedIn. He says it's interesting to hear that Conan Owen does not see a weak economy. If he's willing, would he comment on whether this is part of Charlottesville Albemarle being part of the upside of the K economy, or does he just see a broad-based economic upswing?
Both. There's just so much development going on here in Charlottesville. There's so many new businesses that are growing. You look at some of these tech startups like Luminoa and Icarus, folks like that. And what was it? The American Skin Association is relocating here. There's a strong demand for commercial space, and it's really hard to find mixed use or flex space in this area. In fact, I was just speaking with someone that I believe there's a plot up north past the airport that is going to be converted into, it's zoned for heavy industrial. So there'll be some opportunities there for somebody to branch out. But I think also, just nationwide, if you look at the economic growth numbers, and it is definitely impacting Charlottesville. You're also looking at lower interest rates are headed our way, and they keep coming down. The thing that's going to be really interesting coming up here in the first quarter, and it's amazing how many people are not aware of this, but the no tax on tips and the no tax on overtime is going to have a huge impact in the Charlottesville community. For instance, let's say you're wait staff at one of the nicer restaurants here in town. You're going to get it was a $12,000 credit towards your tips, which basically works out to a $5,000 tax refund coming in March. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
For someone who makes 50 or 60 grand a year.
Yeah.
Getting a $5,000 tax refund is huge. That's absolutely huge. And how many, look at the number of fine dining restaurants there are in Charlottesville where people easily make $200 a night on a shift.
Sure.
So there are a lot of people, the no tax on overtime, it's a lesser credit, but that's going to hit. And a lot of people don't realize this, because it was baked into the tax reform bill last summer, and there was all the, anything about the current administration is just negative. No one wants to say anything good about it, but people are going to see it in their paychecks, and I think that's going to translate into a lot of consumer spending in the Charlottesville market.
So I respect this. You're bullish across the board here.
Oh,
are you bearish in anything?
Just the increasing tax base and the difficulty that both the county and the city governments, the roadblocks they throw up to business formation and growth, I think is just abysmal. They could unleash so much more if they allowed more building of residential properties. I know you and I disagree on this.
One of the few things.
Well, there are probably more, but we need more commercial space, especially light commercial, where you can have.
That's so true.
Where you could have a place like Icarus, who does 3D printing that has heavy power demands,
like your place,
or even like my place. But yeah, I mean, I was telling my former landlord today, it was like I had my choice of 4 places in town, and that was it.
Yeah,
that was it.
And you have what, 7,000 square feet?
Yeah, 6. Yeah, right around 7,000.
He very graciously offered me a tour of his behind the scenes at his shop, and it's pretty impressive. He's got some heavy duty equipment in there. I'm talking massive. What do you call it? What do you call it?
Well, technically, we are custom manufacturing,
right?
Because there's no, you can't walk in and say I want 1,000 of this.
Right.
We have to make it every time.
Yeah.
Whether it's a different paper or a different color or a different design. We have no off-the-shelf products that you can just come pick up. So it is custom manufacturing, and that it actually took a bit of convincing with the city to get them to understand that, because there's a different tax rate for manufacturers than there is for resellers.
So what was the difference? 0 for yours?
Manufacturer pays 0 business license tax in the city of Charlottesville.
That's very nice.
Which it should be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course.
But then we have to pay, personal property tax on all those
on your equipment. Yeah, and your equipment ain't cheap.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Let's throw this to you. You said you had 4 spots that you could pick. What were the 4 in the city?
At the time, there was the Sarasan Tile building.
Okay. That's on Sarasan Tile building.
It's on Harris.
Rio Road?
Oh, no, it was Harris. It was further down the street.
Okay.
From where I was, right overlooking CVille Coffee,
okay.
Essentially. So that was one. There was a building being renovated over on Albemarle Street across Preston, but it wasn't accessible from Preston. You had to kind of go. It was really hard to get to. And then there was the building across from Rudy's Rug Cleaning on Cammy Lane. There was a warehouse space there, and then the one I ended up in with Woodard Properties down in the Crayon Box development at the bottom of Market Street.
On Market Street, which I think you made the right call.
Oh, without a doubt. Sarasan would have been nice, but that just wasn't going to happen with the way they wanted the deal to go.
What'd you make of the Juan Diego Wade mayor for a second time news? Don't hold back, Conan. Because this man's got a lot of things to say.
It's more of the same.
Yeah, that's what
the problem is the council is more or less more of the same, because they only had one seat change, and then one person, one chair changed. So, I actually was kind of hoping that there might be a surprise move and Jen Fleischer might get it, just because I think she brings a fresh perspective to things. We worked with her on her campaign signs and a few other promotional items, and she was just had a different energy to me. I really didn't get into what she supported or believed in or any of that, because they are all more or less interchangeable. But I just liked her energy and her perspective, and I thought that would have been refreshing to, at the very least, get her in as the vice mayor. But so it goes. But yeah, it's just more of the same, unfortunately.
Jen Fleischer, program coordinator for the Blue Ridge Health District. Juan Diego Wade, the mayor for a second go round. Natalie Oshrin, the vice mayor. Michael Payne receives no support with his self-nomination for mayor. Yeah. Crickets on the dais. That surprised me a little bit. I thought he had a shot.
Well, I think when it ends up being a self-nomination, you pretty much have the writing on the wall.
The writing is on the wall there.
Yeah.
Goals for you as a business owner for government, Charlottesville, and City Hall, and the city specifically?
The city specifically is clean up the downtown mall, and I don't mean just deal with the homeless problem, which is a major part of it, but it's also the vacant storefronts. And they're, butcher paper is not pretty.
No.
And we've got the 50th anniversary
Yeah.
coming up. I'm working with Greer and her team. In fact, we're meeting next week to walk the mall and look at things. We even came up with ideas like, let's put, let's do a wrap on the trash cans or on the planters. And the city just looked at us like we had, we're talking about molesting children or something. They're just like, oh God, you can't do that. I was like, why not? You go to New York City and every trash can has a wrap on it.
Yeah, right.
They have entire buildings. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the Louis Vuitton building there on Fifth Avenue, but the entire building, it's a six floors of wrap. It looks beautiful. And we've got all this blank space and empty, it's a mess. But a lot of that comes back to, what are you going to allow? What are you going to promote? And how are you going to go about promoting it?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of a new business tax credit? Is there any kind of a employment tax credit that they can offer to hire city residents? Is there, I know there is, but I'm just saying is that they need to get these programs out there. But more importantly, they need to also work with the landlords to figure out, what's going to be sustainable here. Because you open another kids store, and as long as you've got the homeless problem, people aren't going to bring their kids downtown.
It's crazy. There was I was walking on the downtown mall by the Wells Fargo building today, and there was an unpermitted, not permitted, pop-up table, and they were selling tie-dye cannabis shirts.
Yeah.
Literally right next to this building where there was some showings happening.
Right.
And I'm like, what in God's name is happening right here?
Well, but this is a perfect example of a city that's very fond of regulation, lets all kinds of crap happen on the strip, pardon my French. Because it's like, okay, great. It's like, great, this is your downtown. If you want to be a vendor on the downtown mall, great. Here's a city-approved tent.
Yeah.
Here's a city-approved table throw. Here, and that's part of your permit is you pay $500 or however a month, and you get X number of days.
You get a peddler's license.
You get a peddler's license, and you rent basically a space on the downtown mall to make sure it all looks nice and it doesn't look like this hodgepodge.
This was like definition of hodgepodge.
Yeah.
It was, and dude, and you're the same way. I am all for someone making a buck, doing a business, working hard to make some money, whatever it is.
But not at the cost of making other businesses suffer.
Exactly.
Because you scare away people either by your presence or your appearance or your lack of professionalism.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And does the city want someone selling cannabis T-shirts in a place where a bunch of kids are walking around?
Yeah, to put this in perspective, there was a handful of months ago, and I've mentioned this on the show. I think I told you this. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on the show. I had a third showing of Office Space.
With the bum fight.
Yeah, and it was a nonprofit. I'm not going to say which one, but it was tied to anti-domestic violence. Yeah. And as we're coming out of the third showing, two homeless guys are throwing punches at each other on the mall. And one of the board members that was there, who was upper in age, it was a woman.
Oh, she must have been horrified.
She was absolutely appalled.
Yeah.
Was absolutely appalled.
But, and it's not that I'm against cannabis T-shirts, but the downtown mall is a public space. Yeah. If you want to buy a cannabis T-shirt, walk into SCUMA. But it shouldn't be, the city should have some say, because they have all kinds of regulations about the kind of A-frame sign you can put up on the downtown mall and the kind of bracket that your sign can hang on and how much vinyl you can put in your windows, and you can't do this and you can't. But it's just but then they let anybody either with or without a peddler's license show up and look and do whatever they want. And it's no, I'm sorry, that is a regulated public area, and it should be treated as such.
Let me ask you this question. James Watson, I'm going to get to your comment here in a matter of moments. Put this on the back burner for now. He's going to ask you what area or neighborhood in the city would Conan propose for light industrial. I'll get to that. I'm going to get to Deep Throat's comments for Conan here in a matter of moments. I have one first for me, and we have print, radio, and television watching the program every day on the show. I'm going to call him out. I gave him props when he was crushing it. Stefan Freeman. Yeah. Now I need to hold him accountable a little bit here, and he does not like that his name has been mentioned on the show a handful of times. But I have to be straightforward here. He's Bonnie and Reed, the lease with Bonnie and Reed. He's the owner of Old Metropolitan Hall, which he purchased in a seller finance deal from Travis Wilburn. and he's Draft Tap Room.
Yeah. And the old Commonwealth Sky Bar, right?
He's not Commonwealth Sky
Okay.
Bar. He's not Commonwealth Sky Bar, but he's also Little John's.
Right.
So
Okay.
Stefan Friedman, now he owns Ace Biscuit and Barbecue that's in operation. That's,
And doing very well and very tasty.
and Vitae Spirits he owns. But he has 4 storefronts, arguably the most, visible 4 vacant storefronts in a 10.2 square mile city. Can a city or a jurisdiction, should they do anything?
Well,
Because we're property rights guys.
we're
capitalists.
We are, but again, it also comes with, there's a certain responsibility, I think, to the community. One of the things that I talked about with Greer for the upcoming anniversary was, is there some way we can put a window cling in these empty storefronts to, illustrate the history of Charlottesville or
That's
the
a good
downtown mall?
idea.
Yeah, well, who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
And that could be, and you can't make it a requirement that if your building's vacant for more than 30 days, you have to put a pretty picture in the window so the place doesn't look horrible. At least that would have, some kind of, like if you look on the side of the CVS building, they have that beautiful picture of some meadow out in the country. There are all kinds of beautiful imagery of Charlottesville that you could
That's a good idea.
do. Maybe it's something that the economic development department and the landlord split the cost on, and I'll give them a nice discount on it. But there's an opportunity to make things look not horrible and not run down and not vacant, even though they can still be vacant.
Yeah. Well, they try to do something similar to that with the Dewberry Hotel. When Friends of CVille drove the campaign for folks to donate, Dewberry even contributed some himself to wrap the skeleton.
Yeah, which is now 10 years old and is falling apart.
Yeah, which I would imagine is a teardown. This shows you the Dewberry. Conan and I are 30 minutes into the show, and we talk vacancies on the downtown mall, and we didn't even mention Dewberry, which just shows you that it's...
Yeah, it's kind of a...
It is what it... Like, we're just accustomed to it being there and not even talking about it.
Yeah, and
that's apathy.
I can't ever... I don't understand the math behind any of these things. All of those vacant... who's the really old rich guy who holds all those vacant gas stations around town that are one turned into a Wawa and one... and there's the one on...
Delaney.
Yeah, and there's the one on Ivy Road.
He passed away.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But still, it's just like, what is the math that allows you to hang on to these properties, or in the case of Dewberry, to spend $10 million to buy this property and then do nothing with it? I just don't understand the math on that. That was not a class they taught you in Darden, which is how to throw money away or to sit on it for 20 years and hope it pays off somehow, because I don't see how you ever recover that.
Well, what's interesting with Dewberry is Michael Payne, who received no votes of support, actually kiboshed the Mike Signer broker deal with John Dewberry to actually open that hotel and build it through some tax incentivization and through some parking in the Water Street garage. Mike Signer, when he was on council at the time, brokered a deal with John Dewberry and said, we will offer you tax breaks and parking spaces for your boutique hotel in the Water Street garage. And then Michael Payne, when he was running for his first term, needed some notoriety, and he crapped on that deal. And when he did, that deal fell apart in the bottom of the 9th inning, and then Dewberry said, screw Charlottesville, and he's basically given us the proverbial middle finger here.
Well, and in his case, he may have, and maybe that's what his business model is it's not that much money for me, and I can afford to give you the middle finger.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to the topic you brought up earlier with somebody buying the Daily Progress.
Yeah, and we're going to let's get the comments here. We'll get to a billionaire rescuing the Daily Progress, and it's not just Daily Progress, it's Lee Enterprises. I believe it was a $50 or $55 million cash infusion. This is the guy who owns the Pittsburgh Penguins of the National Hockey League and a number of other businesses across the country. Literally a billionaire. We'll get to that topic. Let's get to Deep Throat. You guys were talking about Juan Diego Wade, Deep Throat's photo on screen, #1 in the family. Welcome back, Deep Throat. You make the program better. Enjoyed chatting with you yesterday as well. He says, you guys were talking about Juan Diego Wade's term, which has not been as catastrophic as Nakia Walker's, obviously, but he has hardly covered himself in glory. No. And in as much as the main function of the mayor, I use the word advisedly because he is really just a presiding officer of council, not an executive in chair meetings. That seems like a weak spot for Wade. It's weird to me that he would be chosen for another term. It was really weird for me as well. I think what it says, and I think he's in agreement, the perception, the optics are that things are running smoothly. that it's business as usual. And dude, he watches the show, and he's a nice guy here. I have no beef with Juan personally.
Well, but here's the thing: is that maybe it is just he's the chair of the council, but I look at someone to mayor to be a leader. I mean, who was it that came with the idea of holiday drive for the homeless shelter? I don't think it was him.
And no, actually, I broke this news on the show. It was really the guy who outbrokered that deal was Hunter Craig.
Yeah. So, it's just like I would expect the mayor to be coming to council with solutions and coming to the city manager, let's look into this and let's look into that, and rallying support for these ideas as opposed to just reacting to what's going on around him. So.
Yeah. James Watson on LinkedIn, he says, what area or neighborhoods in Charlottesville does Conan propose putting light industrial? You mentioned light industrial earlier in the interview.
There are plenty of spots. You keep going down East Market Street. You go back there on Broadway. I mean, where there was already some, but they nixed a deal to put in more back there. I think there are some things that you can do. I think there's a lot of redevelopment opportunity. My old neighborhood, Harris Street, has a lot of industrial, but it's all low rise. It's like you could go in there, expand a facility, and put the corporate offices on a second and third floor. I think there's Rio Road has that old Brightspeed. Is it the Brightspeed building out there that actually is currently being redeveloped? But they've got a giant parking lot. I don't know what they're going to do with all that space, if they're going to put up another warehouse or what they can do out that way. There's plenty of opportunity out by the airport. Also, you've also got let's face it, these shopping malls. You could build an awful lot of something in the old JCPenney. So and then you look at the bottom of Pantops. It's like, why does industrial have to be, industrial isn't the smokestack industry that they used to be. A lot of it is, things like 3D printing and assembly that can be done. You just need a big open space to keep the assembly line flowing.
Hutch Carpenter giving you some props. Christopher Baldwin giving you some props. For the print reporters, we're going to talk print here in a matter of moments. Text message comes in from Philip Reese, who's a business owner. His family owns the Escape Room. He says, do you think Albemarle County voters would approve a 1% sales tax referendum in 2026 for school capital costs?
I think they would, but I don't think they should.
That's loaded statement right there. Unpack that.
Sure. Two things. One is, whatever happened to bond referendums? When I was growing up in Fairfax County, it was always bond referendums for everything. They have their own issues, but I think that also comes back to, it's up to the county to meet the bond payments, and and if voters don't approve of a tax increase, then they need to find savings. And I think that's a bigger issue, is if you look at the increase in the Albemarle County school budget over the past 20 years and how much of that went to administration as opposed to facilities and teachers, you could have easily put away money for the first 10 or 12 years and put in a pretty good dent on the cost of a high school, or even built one 10 or 15 years ago when you really should have seen it coming.
What's interesting about these storylines, the Board of Supervisors approved a significant raise. It's still very meager money, but a significant raise for the school board for themselves. Mm-hmm. The city councilors are going to go in the middle of this year, 2026, from $18,000 to $34K. The mayor from $20K to $36K. That happens this year. Yeah. So at 2X's, I would have liked to see those increases be gradual like everybody else in America, as opposed to 2X basically overnight.
Yeah.
The optics just stink. I don't like the optics of Mayor Wade, a nice guy, getting a second term, when it seems like the city, in my 25 years of living here, is as underperforming as I've ever seen. In 25 years.
The city is, without a doubt. Despite that, because it's such a great place to live and so many people want to be here, that's what's, it's sort of like New York City. It's like New York City is great because people want to be there, but you look at it structurally and economically, and it's a mess, and it's only getting worse. And I think there's a certain amount of that is that Charlottesville is succeeding in spite of itself.
Yeah, well, I think Charlottesville and comments are coming in quickly. I think Charlottesville is being sustained in spite of itself because of the economic development in Albemarle County and because of what the University of Virginia is doing. That's what I think. Albemarle County and UVA, the Charlottesville City are riding the coattails of Albemarle County and UVA.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's what's happening, and no one talks about that. We're afraid. People are afraid to talk about that. But that's what I. Are you seeing that?
Well, very much so. I mean, you look at all the all the construction happening in the city is UVA related. There's very little new build of anything else, and other than some public housing projects which are desperately needed for updating and expansion. And you're really starting to turn it into a very bifurcated society.
100%.
Yeah, and that's also kind of...
Explain what that means to the viewers and listeners. Well, I agree 100% with
you. There's a lot of complaint in Charlottesville about, things aren't affordable. It's like, okay, well, when you've got 2/3 of the population has a bachelor's degree or above, which is double the national average, and everyone has told us our entire lifetime that the key to economic success is having a higher education, you now have 2/3 of the population make a lot more money than the other third. So your median, and what was it that study came out said the median
family household income is $126,000 according to HUD. Median family household income, and that number is going to come out again. It'll be even higher.
Yeah, so that is much higher than national average. I think is like 60.
It's fairly high, and the locate and compared to the Commonwealth, it's number 2.
Yeah, so to Northern Virginia.
Northern Virginia. Yeah.
So you've got a lot of. You've got a lot of the haves, and the haves are driven by the education and the businesses that require that kind of degree, all the Afton Scientifics and quantitative investments and folks like that. Whereas things like what used to be a state farm claims processing center has gone away. The big postal facility up by the airport has gone away. There isn't that traditional kind of, skilled labor or semi-skilled labor component that is driving a part of the economy. And Charlottesville's never really had it, but it's almost minuscule now. And that's something that, the county still has a decent amount of, but could use even more of, because we can't all be in the realm of ideas. Somebody actually has to do and make things.
Carol Thorpe's photo on screen. Judah Wickower is nodding his head in approval over here. Carol Thorpe is the Queen of Jack Jewett. She says the city is on absolute cruise control right now. She says that Juan Diego Wade runs those meetings, period. And she also highlights that tax increases are absolutely the lazy form of government.
Completely.
Vanessa Parkhill, the Queen of Earlysville, watching, then you jump in here. She says, can you imagine if Charlottesville City was not getting the money from the revenue share agreement right now? The state that Charlottesville City would be in right now? That's Vanessa Parkhill's point.
A couple of things on that. So one is my brothers still both live up in Fairfax County. I read that Fairfax County implemented a meals tax for the first time. I didn't realize that they didn't have one. I just thought it was always there. I haven't lived there in forever. It's 4%. Ours is 10.
Your bill, when you consider all taxes with your bill, it's about 12.5%.
Okay, so hello, Fairfax. What do you think is going to be coming your way in a few years? They're going to keep inching that up just like Charlottesville did, because I'm sure Charlottesville didn't start at a 10% tax when they implemented it.
No.
And that's just been a way for them to really kind of, backfill and get, and make up for lost tax revenue.
And local government likes to say that the food and beverage tax, the meals tax, is a tax on tourism and tourists. And I say, no way, Jose. That's the gentrification of dining out for families that live in Charlottesville.
Yeah. I mean, when I go out to dinner, I see lots of people I know. I don't see a whole lot of, other than unless they're wearing, the little tag from the film festival, then I'm guessing they're not a visitor. The other thing that's interesting, and they did this again last night. I remember when this happened last year, I had the same head shake. They had some kind of a economic city fair over at the Carver Center where they set up little booths for different interest groups or different areas like, the environment and transportation and housing. And people were going around with monopoly money, giving out the money to the places where they thought the city should set its spending priorities. There wasn't a table anywhere for give the money back to the citizens. There was nothing about reducing property taxes. There was nothing about reducing business taxes. It was all spend, spend, spend. There was never, not even a thought. Leave the table there and make it look like Siberia, and let the people say, no, I don't want money going back. But the fact that the government who organized this didn't even put that out there as a possibility, because it's just not in their frame of reference. That if you have a lot of tax revenue, if you have a good year, give it back to the people, which is one thing I will say, Governor Youngkin has been very good about, is topped off the rainy day fund. It was at $400 tax refunds last year. We got extra money. We're giving it back to the people who gave it to us, because it was our money to begin with.
Hunter Craig watching the show, he says it's Sugar Bear. I appreciate that, Hunter. Chris Fairchild, Fluvanna County Supervisor, watching the program. Stephanie Fick watching the show. I owe you a response to the direct message, Stephanie. I will do that. Lonnie Murray, thank you for watching the program. Albert Graves, Betsy Nugent watching the show. John Shabe, the owner of Pro Renata, on the program right now. Barbara Becker-Tilley says she sees downtown like 1978 New York City.
Not quite that bad.
I'll push back. I have to push back on that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and she's saying it's seen better times. Yeah. We are optimists. You have to be if you're a business owner.
You do.
50-year anniversaries this year. My hope is, and I still believe this, that we're at a turning point. Janice Boyce Trevelyan asked about the clean team and whether or not they've started yet. The outfit out of Louisville, $1.2 million for 2 years to serve as ambassadors on the mall. They have not started yet. I do think it's going to turn around. Yeah,
I think it's going to take a lot of kicking and screaming, both from the merchants on the downtown mall, from the local residents who don't feel like it's a place for them anymore. And it's going to take a lot of dealing with the kicking and screaming of the advocates who don't want things to change.
You know what I think is going to turn it around? I think Natalie Oshrin, the vice mayor now, has openly said on the record that Charlottesville City Council has extremely ambitious plans for projects in Charlottesville over the next 12 to 24 months. Her words. Ambitious plans require money.
Yeah, well, then there's that.
And I think what's going to turn this around is when taxpayers in Charlottesville City get their assessments that come out, and the city may choose to raise real estate taxes, the rate again. Yeah. Albemarle County just raised the rate in 2025, 4 cents. That happens in Charlottesville City. You're going to start getting some friction and some resistance from locals who say, look, you need to start driving tax revenue from other sources here and not just our rooftops and personal property. That's when it starts swinging around. I also think this, I sincerely mean this, Chris Engel, who listens and watches to this show, okay? Chris Engel needs to will be a larger part of the conversation on this program, the director of economic development in Charlottesville. Yeah. Because we need some economic development direction in this city.
Oh, without a doubt.
Since 2019 to 2026, there's been, it's not gone in the right direction. You agree?
Oh, completely. And it's a combination of regulation. It's a combination of attitude. It's a combination of tax policy. It's also a matter of workforce issues. It's a matter of housing for the workers. It's tough, without a doubt. And I'll keep getting back to this, but you got to build. The only way you're going to bring prices down is when supply exceeds demand. It's the only way. It's the only way it ever happens.
Yeah, this is one of the, he says we disagree in other spots, but from what I've known this man fairly well.
This is the number one thing we disagree
Over the last 18 months, I've known him, gotten to know him fairly well. This is the number one thing
we disagree on.
He's a build guy. Yep. And I'm not opposed to building. I always caveat this, as long as we prioritize infrastructure first, then the build.
That ship sailed when they canceled the Western Bypass and when they gave all those conservation easements on Ivy Road.
Yeah,
and other
he's going to throw some shade to my neck of the woods. I think in a comment on social media, you said, what'd you call them? The land gentry?
The landed gentry, yeah. All these people with their houses up on the hill and acres of flowing pasture land that would either make a couple extra lanes for Ivy roads that, We're not putting everybody on a 2-lane road or shoving them all over to 64, because when there's an accident,
It's brutal.
It's the end of the world for that part. Yeah, but the other thing is true is you look at south of town. You try and take 5th Street down, and once you get past Southwood, it's a dangerous road.
Yeah.
And same with Scottsville. Could Scottsville, if someone asked earlier, where would you do where would you do industrial around here? Scottsville, Palmyra.
Yeah.
Zion's Crossroads.
Well,
there are plenty
down towards
of
Scottsville, towards 20. You saw Gropin move their headquarters that way.
Yeah, but they're still. I mean, they're still within. They're in stumbling distance of a winery, so they're not quite in Scottsville.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
There's that nice southern. Craig Builders is putting a development back right near there. I'm talking, another 5 miles down the road when you get past the turnoff for the wineries down there. What's that turnoff back that takes you back towards Trump and Dave Matthews Place and what's the big one out there? Mount Ida.
Mount Ida. What is it?
Out by where you make the turn to go to Mount Ida. So if you go down, you go over the little creek bridge that's being replaced.
Out by Turkey Run.
Yeah, past Red Hill Road. Yeah, exactly. But there's plenty of opportunity out there. You look at the road out. You look at 250 out towards Keswick. There's some remnants of some old industrial kind of operations out there, but there's plenty of land out there.
Janice Boyce Trevelyan highlights that Zion's Crossroads in Louisa has Amazon coming to that side of the Central Virginia. $11-12 billion of investment from Amazon for data centers, and be careful what you wish for with those data centers, Louisa County.
But the other thing to keep in mind, look what Louisa County did yesterday.
What was that? I missed that.
Opened a wing in their middle school.
Ah. You do any signage with the schools?
Not yet. We do some printing for the Louisa, especially the middle school. But they're growing their school because why? They see it. They've got what's the other drug company that's coming in down there?
Eli Lilly.
Eli Lilly's coming in the neighborhood. You got Amazon
Goochland.
coming in the neighborhood. They see all the kids, and I'm sure the high school's not far behind.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to build a second campus, but they're probably going to have to put an addition, even though that's a brand new, beautiful facility.
Eli Lilly, even more money invested into Goochland than the $4.5 billion AstraZeneca is doing into northern Albemarle County. I think the Eli Lilly project, when it comes online, is going to have dramatic impacts on gated community Spring Creek that has roughly 500 to 600 lots still available for development. Dice Hammer, who I believe still owns Massanutten, is the man who controls many of those 500 to 600 lots in Spring Creek. Carol Thorpe, economic development and tourism boards feel almost non-existent in Charlottesville. She says it seems like the city has zero juice right now. This from John. Here's a question for Conan. Has he heard of a coconut jelly restaurant coming to the area? He was just in Silicon Valley over the break, and that's all the rage. He suspects a coconut jelly restaurant to come to the area soon. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything about that, but if I did, it sounds like it would be a franchise, which would probably end up in one of the shopping malls.
Daily Progress saved by a billionaire.
Yes.
A man that owns the Pittsburgh Penguins of the National Hockey League. Where do you want to go on that?
Well, you can start at the general theme is if you look at what's been going on in media in the past 5 years, Boston Globe was bought by a billionaire who owns the Red Sox. The Washington Post was bought by Jeff Bezos. Now the Daily Progress. It's essentially a hobby. Bezos did it as a vanity play because he wanted to be invited to all the Georgetown cocktail parties, but they aren't journalists, which is fine. I was a former journalist myself, but
me too.
I don't.
We have that in common.
It's just like
you're photojournalist, right?
Yeah, but what it tells me is that journalism, as it's currently configured, isn't sustainable. So when people say, "Oh, some billionaire came," well, what do you want him to do? Just close up shop?
Well, what's
the alternative?
What should he do? You're a businessman and a former journalist. What should the billionaire do with just call it the Daily? I think we're in agreement with this. John Blair and I talk about this all the time. Is it take the Daily Progress, the Waynesboro paper, the Roanoke paper, the Greene County paper, basically close the newspapers, make them bureaus for the Richmond Times-Dispatch that becomes the paper of the Commonwealth?
More or less. The other thing, number one thing is go all digital. there have been several papers. I remember the New Orleans Times-Picayune was one of the first to go completely digital, shut down their printing plant, sold off the presses, sold off the real estate, and they survived. If you think about the business model that a newspaper is based on, is cutting down a tree, turning it into paper, shipping it across the country, printing on it, cutting it, and giving it to a bunch of 12-year-olds to deliver before 5 in the morning, that just doesn't make any sense. So first of all, newspapers should be 100% digital, and that would allow the local resources to focus on content. So if they're not worried about editing the stories, editing can be done anywhere. And quite honestly, I know they're not going to like to say this because I was a former copy editor also, AI can do a lot of it.
Oh, dude, 100%.
And it's not like the old, find and replace that they had back when I was in the newspaper business, and they talked about businesses being in the
AI can write the story for you.
Yeah, well, they can. But the funny thing was, once upon a time, the Philadelphia Inquirer did a business story about a company that finally turned it around and was back in the African American, because spell check wouldn't let them write black. But AI doesn't do that anymore. But yeah, you can move a lot of the editing function, and what you need is somebody to say, okay, what's the news? You can have a bureau chief that's deciding what's the news in Charlottesville that my team needs to cover, and they can go out and cover a couple of stories a day, and you're no longer constrained by how many how many column inches do I have because advertising only sold this amount of space, and then you write your stories.
So you got the Daily Progress editor. It's Reynolds Hutchins, and if you haven't seen Reynolds Hutchins, I actually did a real estate tour with him. This guy is jacked. I mean, he is a diesel. He's like a brick house. Reynolds Hutchins, the editor, is basically the bureau chief of Charlottesville, the Charlottesville metro area, and he has. Probably at that point, they're going to be freelancers or stringers, 2 to 3 freelancers or stringers under him. And he says, these are the stories of the day to the 2 to 3 freelancers or stringers. I started my career in paper as a freelancer, making $30 a story. Yeah. This was in 2003, 22 years ago. So he sends his 2 to 3 stringers out to cover either a city council meeting, a board of supervisors meeting, or the big high school football game on that Friday night. And that's the content for the Charlottesville Bureau, the Charlottesville section of the Richmond Times-Dispatch.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think the editor sets the agenda for the day, and then he picks up his pad and paper and walks out the door and covers 3 stories himself, because he actually doesn't have anything to edit. He's making editorial judgment on setting the priorities for what needs to be covered, because he is the local knowledge base for Charlottesville. I don't want someone in Richmond deciding what is really.
No, I agree with that.
But it's like once you make your priorities for the day, guess what? Your day's done in terms of your job as editor. You're not overlooking somebody's writing style. That you figured out in the interview, and that's something for the folks in Richmond to worry
stringers.
about. No, they should be staff. I think they should be staff. Because
staff gets expensive. The Charlottesville Daily Progress is basically unioned. It's a guild.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be anymore. Change of ownership. But also, it's like what are they actually leveraging there off of a company that's bankrupt? It's like you're not going to be getting $100,000 salaries. No, I think you need to go for something like this. You really need to go with employees who are invested in the community, invested in the company, and invested in the success of the venture. I don't think they should be out there doing selling ads while writing a story, because then you get into a whole another mess. But you can have local sales people reporting to a regional sales manager back in Richmond, making sure they're hitting their goals, making sure they're selling correctly.
Because the interesting thing is, and we were both taken aback by this, but not actually really surprised, but almost flabbergasted. They don't even have a local sales person.
Yeah. Well,
think about that. That's crazy.
But there's nothing to sell. But then you're dependent on you're depending on subscriptions, which never should have been more than 50% of your. In the old days, wasn't ever more than 50% of your revenue model. And once classified ads went away and all of that, it's just turned into an absolute mess. But now, if you've got a digital edition, you can have people do some video with that as well, so that there are video pieces accompanying the story. So it looks more like if you look at the local TV news, where they've got the video and then the text below.
Yeah.
But you could have expanded text with just a little video clip or a picture.
You're one of the few people I know that still watches the broadcast news, local news.
Business
But you're
ideas.
doing it for business
I'm
dev.
doing it for business ideas and the weather.
Yeah, right. You're doing it for the business dev.
Yeah, and for a little bit of comic relief too.
What you're saying?
The typos
You're
in the
saying
Chiron, the
mistakes.
typos in the Chiron are just yeah.
My favorite typo was the one that I think you shared on Reddit. And dude, I'm going to catch heat for this. You go into the Reddit cesspool and you comment. But one of my favorite ones that you shared was, I think it was NBC 29 did a holiday story at UVA Hospital.
Yeah,
And then they showed Santa Claus.
And there was a typo on his name tag.
And his
yeah.
badge,
Just like
Santa was misspelled. And
Yeah.
you're like, why would they dox the
yes,
hospital
Satan,
and Santa?
Satan, yeah.
Yeah, they spelled it Satan
Satan
instead
Claus,
of Santa.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I get it. It's entry level and all that stuff, but yeah, but there still has to be attention to detail. And come on, there isn't spell check.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Satan would get through spell check, so that's
Satan on the badge or
yeah.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, it was pretty
He
bad.
was going door to door or bed to bed.
bed to bed.
With the
Here
kids.
comes,
The
hey kids,
sick
here comes
kids.
Satan Claus. Okay, what's next?
That's
I think
so
we beat
funny.
that one to death.
Let me throw this to you. What is the impact? Because I haven't asked you about this yet. The AstraZeneca impact. $4.5 billion.
Well, I mean, let's start with construction and contracting. I mean, just the building and the infrastructure and everything. It's going to take years to get that facility up and running.
Yeah.
So it's, the Contractors Full Employment Act is what Charlottesville seems to be these days. So that's a big part of it. The other thing is going to be the skyrocketing of housing in Green because Albemarle doesn't want to build up there. I mean, granted, you've still got some stuff going on up there by Polo Grounds Road that still needs to be fleshed out, but by the time AstraZeneca's built, that stuff's all going to be full. So I think you're going to see a lot of what's happened in Charlottesville happening in Green. So I can't remember the name of the development, but if you go on 33 towards Gordonsville, there's a couple of nice developments on the left-hand side of the road that have multi-acre lots. I think the values of those houses are going to go up as the executives come in and start to snap them up. That means they're going to need to be building housing basically for the displaced price point before they end up in the same mess that Charlottesville's gotten itself into by not building. And I'd like to think, I know Greene County has had a big change in their leadership over the past few years, but I'd like to think they aren't going to make the same mistakes Charlottesville, even though they tend to be of the same mindset.
Ginny Hu's photo on screen, she says, we absolutely should not pay more taxes for school funds. We've thrown more money at them for decades without education improving.
Exactly.
And in many cases, actually becoming worse. I already pay for a system I do not use, and I'm not throwing more money away at a system that's failing our kids.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the amount of money that has gone in, it's always, we need more money, we need more money. So we keep getting more money and we keep getting the same bad result, which gets back to the definition of insanity. So, but part of the problem is, where's that money going? Because it's not going to instruction.
Well, we know where it's going.
It's going to infrastructure. It's going to
Haas and his lieutenants.
And it's going to the climate czar for the schools.
Yeah.
And it's going to electric buses when you can get by fine with diesel.
Yeah.
It's going to things that don't change the educational environment for the kids or address their needs or address the faculty's needs. Although based on the outcomes we've had, I'm not sure all the faculty should still be there. And that's one of those things that people say, you got to care about the kid. Well, if you cared about the kids, you'd want performance-based teacher evaluations, and you wouldn't have caved into the whole COVID thing that just absolutely has destroyed a generation of learners. Thank God I don't have kids.
Destroyed a generation.
Thank God I don't have kids. But you also look, they just came out and said, what was it? Homeschooling's up 15%.
Ginny Hu is a homeschooler.
Yeah.
She homeschools for all her kids.
Yeah.
Jefferson Council, we'll talk about this in detail. They sent us via email, which I would imagine they're also going to publish on their website, the fine folks at the Jefferson Council, a Freedom of Information Act request. They have 239 pages they sent to us. That basically is the skeletons, the warts for the Dr. Craig Kent, Melinda Kibbe scandal, the white-collar racketeering, overcharging patients, backroom dealing and bullying, leveraging promotions or demotions to maintain power and control. So we're going to break that down in detail on tomorrow's show. I'm corresponding with some of the anonymous 128 right now about what's going on. But I'd love for you to offer an opinion on anything UVA. Goodness gracious, it's the gift that keeps giving.
Well, it's going to be UVA is going to be both sides of the sword in this town forever.
Yeah. But it's not normally like this.
No, it's not. It's not quite this bloody. And I mean that on both sides, when it cuts both ways. Because on one hand, you've got, got successful athletic teams again, but then you have this whole transfer portal disaster and what's his name sitting out the game.
Yeah, Jamari Taylor.
Basically refusing to go to work.
The running back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you get paid to play a game, and he got paid.
He got paid, yeah.
It's just like you don't see professional athletes going in and saying, well, I don't want to play this game because I might get hurt. If you're physically able to perform, you perform. That's what you're paid for, and you take the chances. And if you don't like taking the chances, take out an insurance policy or go get a different path in life. But that's the risk you take. You could get how many times do you have non-contact injuries in football? The quarterback from Minnesota blew out his ankle.
Yeah, happens all the time.
So I'm sorry if you bail on playing in the game that you worked all season to get to, you sit out the next year.
Scott Beardsley,
great pick. He's qualified.
He's Darden guy. You're a Darden guy.
Yeah, he is. Well, he's a Harvard guy, but that's okay.
But sorry,
and he's a McKinsey guy.
Dean at Darden.
Yeah, Dean at Darden did a great job at Darden. One of my best friends at Darden.
You got beef with the McKinsey?
Oh yeah.
What's the beef with McKinsey?
They dinged me in my second round interview. I went to work for BCG.
Got it. Okay.
It's like going to work for Hertz instead of Avis, or the other way around.
Okay.
One of my best friends at Darden was his fraternity brother undergrad.
Okay.
And my friend is basically Rob Reiner. Has the same political views as Rob Reiner. And he thinks Scott's an amazing guy. There's no way he would be supporting Scott to be president of UVA if Scott was some right-wing tool, like lots of the conspiracy theorists think. So he knows what he's doing. He's been around UVA for, 10 years? He got reappointed by Ryan. He's taken UVA to the top ranking, or Darden to the top ranking, something UVA's never quite achieved.
Phenomenal fundraiser.
A great fundraiser.
Yeah.
So what's not to like? Oh, he got appointed by someone I disagree with. Well, but he was qualified.
Yeah.
Period. End of sentence. And the faculty and the students, it's like, I'm sorry, you don't get to pick your boss. It's not the way it works.
I'm 100% in agreement with what you said. Why is there so much uproar?
Because they don't like the process or the perception of the process.
Because the process took months.
It did.
It took more than half a year, right?
It did. And what was it they said? That he was selected by he was identified by the same search firm that identified Ryan.
Yeah.
He's the same search firm that brought him to UVA in the first place. So he's jumped through all of the UVA hoops he passed the smell test with flying colors. And it's all about, this board that Youngkin did, and they're an illegitimate board and all this other stuff. It's like, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. So let's say somebody goes and sues and says, there weren't enough Virginia residents on the board at the time because we blocked Youngkin's appointments and his appointment is illegitimate, so now we have to go back to the drawing board.
Which technically there are not.
Okay, but is that grounds for violating any of their... Because
we're going to find out
here's
very
where I'm going
soon.
with it. Okay, so let's say they come back and say, you didn't have a properly constituted board, therefore the Board of Visitors can't make any decisions, not just the president.
That very well could happen.
Okay, so then what happens? Is 4 years from now, when the Republicans win, or 8 years from now, I don't know. You look at how this country reacts to overreach.
Well, look at how the Democrats are redistricting the Commonwealth.
We'll see if that holds as well. But here's the thing, is that there's always the chance that the Senate's going to go back to the Republicans. And if the Republicans end up blocking a Democrat governor's appointments, UVA or any other school will never have a properly constituted Board of Visitors. And guess what? They can't make any decisions. So what happens to a university that can't make any decisions at the Board of Visitors level? You're just asking for problems. Look what happened to Chuck Schumer. He said, we need to pass all these judicial nominations. We need to get all this through. So we're going to get rid of the 60-vote rule. We got a 51 simple majority to get judges approved. And then they lost. And then Trump went and appointed a bunch of judges. And now they're complaining about the process. Well, it's a process you created. And you have to, there's a reason why those rules were put in place in order to protect against the whims of the day. And I just don't, if it was smart enough for the founding fathers, I'm pretty sure the current group of knuckleheads running our country should be paying attention.
Does faculty strike?
Oh, go ahead, strike. Please, what are you going to strike about? You don't like your boss? Oh, come on.
Judah would strike every day.
Yeah, exactly. And so would my whole staff. It's just like on any given day.
You're not supposed to technically like your boss all the time, folks.
And you don't get to choose him. That's what you took the job. You didn't. Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what exactly is the president going to tell you that you don't like? You can't teach this class anymore because Donald Trump is scaring me?
Does
I don't think
Does Rachel Sheridan quit before she's fired by Spanberger?
Don't know, don't care.
Porter Wilkinson, don't know, don't care.
Don't know, don't care. I think they should stand their ground because they were duly appointed.
Okay.
They did what they thought was in the best interest of the university.
Or they did what Youngkin told them to do.
Let me
line.
ask you something. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that Youngkin called them up and said, get rid of Ryan and hire Beardsley?
No, I think Youngkin was extremely influential behind the scenes of getting rid of Ryan. I don't think Youngkin behind the scenes said hire Beardsley, though.
So how is that going to be any different than Spanberger getting in behind the scenes and saying get rid of the rector and the vice rector?
I think that very well could happen.
It very well could happen, but then you're getting back into the whole the governor is the puppeteer
Yeah.
for UVA. And you don't want that.
No, you don't
want that. The governor should govern the state, let the universities run themselves, and he has this power to appoint his friends to be on the board.
But this is politics of 2025,
yeah,
2026.
but I already told you how to fix the Board of Visitors to get the politics out of it.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that because it means giving up power. And the one thing that people in politics want is power.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want money. Money comes from power.
Exactly.
But they pursue the power.
Yeah.
And it's the power.
The power's the hardest piece to get. The money you can get.
And it's something they'll never give up once they've got it.
Exactly.
That's why they change the rules in order to stay in power.
Bingo.
And that's why incumbents keep getting reelected because the
redistricting.
Exactly. It's all
They're
rigged.
changing the rules.
But we have to change the rules to save democracy because the Republicans are changing the rules in other states. Yeah, exactly. It's all a joke. And they can't even see their own hypocrisy, and that goes for both sides.
Well, no, it's not even that they can't even see their own hypocrisy. It's like they actually don't even believe it's hypocrisy.
Well, because they're doing it. When they do it, it's pure. When the other side does it, it's evil.
It's a savior complex.
Yeah, and that's true for both parties.
100%.
And it's just annoying. It's like we deserve better.
The savior complex is so rooted in like narcissism. And it's true for both sides.
Yeah, but we deserve better, but we're not going to get better because who the hell wants to do that job?
Exactly.
That's why you end up with unemployed people living in their parents' house on the city council.
Oh, it's not just me that's singing them. Michael Payne right there. It was not just me that's singing. That's a Conan Owens sing right there.
If I had known that, it's just like, are you kidding me? Is that the best Charlottesville can do?
I said it all the time on the show.
Is that the best we have in leadership and executive thinking?
And that's why I say it on the show. Right there, Judah. He makes the point. That's why. An unemployed guy, part-time guy that was living at home with his parents in his 30s is one of 5 people allocating a $264 million yearly budget.
Yeah, and he may have a broad constituency that reflects him. But
does he?
He might. I mean, that's the stereotype.
Terrifying.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, but that's the stereotype. But just because you have a broad constituency doesn't mean you bring the right ideas that the city needs so that you don't end up in your 30s on a part-time job living with your parents.
When did it be cool to be in your 30s living at home with your parents, part-time working?
When you can blame the system for it. It's not his fault.
Jesus.
Okay, it's just like do you know how many open jobs there are in this country?
Oh my gosh, I know.
There's 7 million open jobs.
Our clients at Great Harvest in this location on the downtown mall, they need employees.
Yeah. I don't want to work for $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then stay in home in your parents' basement.
He's working for less than $10 an hour, Michael Payne.
$18K
a year.
But then you look at a place like Starbucks. The CEO started as a barista.
Yeah, right.
Well,
look at the Papa John's and the Domino's franchise owners. Yeah. They start as drivers and like the pizza flippers.
Yeah.
Props to that.
Well, fun story for you. Wawa, owned by the DuPont family. My roommate when I was with BCG down in Mexico, his roommate at Stanford Business School was there DuPont. And when he graduated, his listing in the alumni directory was store manager, Wawa number 74. Because he spent 4 years running one of his family stores before he even stepped foot in the corporate offices.
That's great.
And he was the son. I mean, he's the kind of person that why isn't he running because he has to learn the business.
Yeah.
So get out there, get a job,
Take
learn
the
the business,
trash out.
get the next step on the the next rung on the ladder, and you'll get there. We don't all start at the top, and that's part of the problem is the expectation of I've got student loans. Well, why did you take them out? Why didn't you go to PVCC for 2 years?
Why did you major? Exactly.
Why did you major in underwater basket weaving?
Right, and clay.
Yeah.
Clay molding.
Yeah.
The PVCC thing, I was just talking about that with my wife. 2 years at PVCC, live at home with your parents. Is it a 3.0 or and above? And you're
automatically into any state school.
Any state school. Yeah. I mean, why is this not being done?
And half the time PVCC is free.
Right.
It just makes economic sense. Or get a trade. My wife was telling me yesterday she had a plumber come over, fix 2 things in her bathroom for $400.
And was he there for like 90 minutes?
Something like that, yeah. Huh. And she's got a nephew who's trying to decide whether to go to some Division III school to play football or go into the Army. It's like, no, go be an electrician. Go get a trade school.
Yeah.
You'll make more money than any college graduate coming out of school.
Ashley Pillar giving you props. Lauren Elena Tertios,
one of my Honduran cousins,
is giving you props. Philip Reese, I would
escape room.
Unlocked,
you got to call me back about that direct mailing.
Unlocked History Escape Room. Philip Reese says, kudos to Conan Owen. He's a great guest. I always learn something new when he's on this show. I think there's a client relationship budding here with Unlocked
I've sent him a proposal for direct mail. Yeah. Come on, Phil.
Well, let's make that happen. You crushed it, dude.
Well, thanks.
It's fun with you.
Well, I tell you, it's fun. I love my job. I love being out in the community. I love seeing all these new businesses.
Do you like doing the show?
I do.
It's 75 minutes.
It's fun. Yeah.
You brought your A game today.
You got the right topics going.
There's a
lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's so much happening in this town.
Yeah.
It's amazing because even though I do watch the local news to get some, because I don't know all of it, but they're missing so much.
So much.
There are so many great stories out there.
And you know what? I don't even think that it's their fault. It's partially their fault that they're missing it. There's only so much a 22 or 23-year-old reporter can do. Yeah. That's fresh out of college. They have 30 seconds per segment.
Yeah.
22 minutes of content in a 30-minute show because the commercial breaks. And the paper is just so severely understaffed.
But it's also there's a certain amount. They do have. There is a news editor, and there's also a responsibility. I remember when I was a journalist, they always told me, "Well, you need to go out and have sources in these 4 or 5 different fields, people you can turn to get opinions on stuff." And we think back to what happened this weekend with the anti-Venezuela protests here in town. It was like nobody thought to go talk to the people that are us.
Let's close with that. With that.
It's like, here's a Venezuelan refugee family. They fled Venezuela. How about getting the others? I mean, no one at those protests had ever been to Venezuela. They've never lived in Venezuela. They probably don't know any Venezuelans. All they are is mad about what happened. But, my brother was in the embassy in Venezuela. He was in Caracas for several years. Every time he went stateside, and this was 15 years ago when Chavez was still there, he had to come home with a suitcase full of toilet paper and powdered milk for his kids because you couldn't get it in Venezuela. These folks, they know they have family members who have, fallen to the regime. They escaped. They've come here. They've built a great restaurant. They started over on Cherry Avenue. They got their food truck. We did their decal for their food truck when they got selected to be at Scott Stadium 2 seasons ago. They now moved to this great steakhouse over on 5th Street that's they already crossed their 1st year anniversary. They're going into their 2nd year. Here you've got Venezuelan entrepreneurs who can tell you a little something about what life is like in Venezuela, and it just never occurred to anyone to go talk to them.
What did you think of their statement? I want to keep going with you. What did you think of the statement?
I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, me too.
Because they didn't mention Trump.
It took a lot of balls.
It did, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate to be scared to come out in your community and say, here's what I feel about a situation that affects me personally. And one that I've lived. And the reason I'm in your community now is because of this horrible situation in my country, which is now over. And I'm so happy for that. And the fact that people would be angry that they're happy is just mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling.
And you know, it's this visceral reaction to anything you disagree with, anything associated with it has to be
well, and that's why, you know, we do it all the time. You do it in some ways too when you jump in those threads on Reddit.
Yeah, and part of it is because, you know, people say, "Oh, you're no." It's like, no. What I'm defending is a business owner's right to exist and to ply their trade without stupidity affecting their success.
Yeah, you're a capitalist.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, do they have good products? Great, go. If they don't go.
Yeah.
But I'm not choosing who I'm going to, I don't sit there and calculate every little thing that goes through my head. And I saw and the other problem is that the amount of misinformation out there is just staggering. Someone posted a picture from a Great Harvest bread company in Northern Virginia that had a thing supporting Turning Point USA. And they were just like, oh, we might want to think twice about going to Great.
I saw that.
And I'm like, good God, people, these are franchises.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with the other one.
Right.
And then somebody said, oh, well, I applied to them. And
they actually got the city wrong in the thread.
Yeah.
It was the wrong location.
Yeah.
And the OP's original post.
And then everybody's piling on saying, oh my God, we got to be careful about Great Harvest. And someone said, oh, well, I applied for a job with them and they offered me minimum wage. And I was like, when was that? 2 years ago? I was like, they're new owners now.
Yeah.
Oh.
We helped them buy this business.
It's like people are spouting off these hurtful opinions without doing any research or having any knowledge or giving any context. And it really is. And it's just a shame that people look at that and say, you know, this is how I'm judging people based on this crazy. I mean, they're still saying Shenandoah Joe's is owned by a MAGA nut job. Yeah. No, it's not.
Yeah, it's owned by a black guy who's a Darden graduate.
A Trinidadian immigrant.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's just like, can you at least get your facts right? No, because facts don't matter. What matters is my indignation. And I'm just, you know, in Charlottesville, it's like, it's supposed to be a welcoming community. Well, welcome everybody. You know, it's just like I've got people coming in. I had a guy come into my store a couple of days ago. I think he's Afghanistani. I couldn't ask him because he couldn't speak English. He had to translate through his phone to me to place his order for his car repair business. But he was the nicest guy. It's like, great. I don't ask him, are you a refugee? Were you there? I was like, no. It's like, welcome to Charlottesville. How can I help you get your business off the ground?
Welcome to Charlottesville. How can I help you? Do you have the money to pay for the services? If you do, we will work hard for you.
Knock ourselves out for you.
Because we want reoccurring business.
And Dash thought he was great. Dash jumped up on his shoulder
That's
and hung
his
out
cat.
with him. Yeah, Dash greeted him.
Judah's loving this back
here. But it's just like, that's what any community should be.
Right.
It
used to be that way.
And I have Latins come in and we talk Spanish and I help them with their, a cleaning company came in, they're adding 2 cars to their fleet. We're doing their decals for them and talking to them about their business. And, and I don't ask them, are you here illegally? No, I don't care.
Right.
That's somebody else's job to figure out.
100%.
I'm here to help you make money so that you can be a productive part of society. And that was something, we had a Synapse meeting yesterday, where they highlight a different nonprofit at every meeting.
Synapse is a club. Tell me about it.
It's a networking group here in town. Right. And you join, and they have weekly meetings, more than weekly meetings because there's several different ones around town. And then they bring in a nonprofit to highlight. And I talked to the board, the executive director of CVille, where I'm on the board, and he came to the one yesterday. And one of the things we talked about was, CVille doesn't mean without borders; it means without barriers. So we're helping remove the barriers so that people can succeed in Charlottesville. It's not about opening the border and saying, hey, everybody come on up to Charlottesville and get free stuff. No, it's you're here, great. How can we help you learn English? How can we help you in the workplace? How can we help you navigate this culture and society that you may not be familiar with? And it goes both ways. We also work with nonprofits, giving them Spanish lessons so that their staff can deal with Spanish speakers in whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's the food bank or domestic violence, whatever it happens to be, or even going to adopt a dog at the SPCA. But to me, that's what inclusion is. It's like, I don't care what your policy. I did yard signs for Ziona Bryant. And the only thing I asked her was, so what would you say to people who say you don't have kids? What are you doing on the school board? And she gave me a very articulate, well-thought-out answer.
I called her out for that.
Yeah, and she said, well, I was in the school system.
She went through the school system.
I went through the school system. I lived it.
Yeah.
The parents out here didn't live the Charlottesville school system.
That's a great response.
And I told her, I said,
You use that response.
Yeah, it's like you convinced me of that.
She's extremely smart.
Oh yeah, she's great, and she was a good customer. We did a lot.
I don't agree with what she has done, but she's extremely intelligent. I will not throw shade on her intelligence.
And it's like, it doesn't matter. I did the best yard signs I could do for you at the best price I could.
Her money is green.
Her money is green, and so is Jen Fleischer's, and so is Dave Norris's when he ran.
Right.
And so is Sally Hudson's and everybody else. Not Tom Perriello's, because he's going to send it to a union shop. But that's another story. Yeah, exactly. The check clears or the credit card doesn't bounce. I'm fine. I'm happy.
Right.
I'll do whatever I can to help you succeed.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Hat tip in the comment section. Hat tip to Carol Thorpe, who mentions Chick-fil-A. The same activists with the indignation on someone's politics as a business owner, and if they're a Trump supporter, a Republican, or a conservative, then after they protest, go get chicken nuggets and waffle fries at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Well, but Chick-fil-A is owned locally. It's a local franchisee.
Right. Well, my point is Chick-fil-A's their politics.
Well, but it's
closed on Sundays.
But is it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the franchise rules. The franchisee may not believe it, but he looks at Chick-fil-A and says, delicious food, great service culture, fanatical followers.
Yeah.
It's a moneymaker.
It crushes it.
Right? It's just like it doesn't have anything to do with, and not the local one especially.
I support businesses and owners.
Period.
Yeah. Is the service you're giving me up to the standard of the money that's in my pocket? And if it is, I come back.
Off you go. Oh, one thing I did want to circle back on, the tax on tips things.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens in some places in Charlottesville that have the automatic service fee, because that is not counted towards tax. That is not considered a tip. That's a service fee paid to the establishment, which the establishment then redistributes. So if you worked at a place all year and only got paid what was on that service fee line, you do not get the credit on tax on tips.
Well, most of them are that way now.
Are they though?
A lot of them are.
No, it's different when it says, do you want to add a tip?
Oh.
No, this is when it says you've got 18% added.
So that
when the
may be
service
why
charge,
some of them are taking it off now.
Yeah.
For example, Selvage Brewery has taken that off. I love Selvage Brewery. And it used to be an auto 20%.
Yeah, the auto 20% is gone because that doesn't qualify for the tax on tips. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it was an auto 15% at Selvage.
Yeah.
So they took it off the last time we were there.
Yep. So that's probably in reaction to the tax policy.
Dude, you should do a post on social media. It should be out there, or at least send us a write-up, like a detailed write-up. We will give you credit on tomorrow's show.
I'm not a tax. Do not take tax advice from this man.
How many of the folks even know about this?
Oh, none. My employees who work some overtime, in July when the bill passed, I said, do you realize you're going to be getting some? And they were like,
that's what I'm saying.
No.
How many of the food and beverage places?
Well, the good news is that when you file your taxes, it will do it for you, because on your W-2 it says qualified tips.
Yeah.
And that gets plugged into QuickBooks or your TaxSlayer or whatever program you use, and it will qualify. They may not understand why they're all of a sudden getting this big fat check, but they're going to get one.
And they're going to spend it.
Yeah.
You crushed it, dude.
So.
Conan Owen, guys, Sir Speedy, locally owned and operated by this man, a Darden graduate. If you have a logo and you need an application for it, this is who you contact. He's done the signage on the storefront, our studio, this banner that's behind us, the signage in the lobby of the Macklin building, signage on the second floor, and signage for a number of our clients.
Yep.
Locally owned and operated. Absolutely fantastic interview today. Wow, Conan, 90 minutes. It was fun.
I got to get back to work.
I know you do. Judah Woodcower behind the camera, the I Love CVille show. Thank you kindly for joining us. On tomorrow's program, we break down what will be breaking news, and certainly I hope to God in the news cycle, the Jefferson Council's FOIA of the health system soap opera, white-collar racketeering, backroom dealing, leverage, blackmail, and more. Tomorrow's show, don't miss it. So long. Dude, I'm going to forward you right now what they sent us. Conan, so
I can't imagine.